Thank you for joining Effortless Attraction. My name is Evelyn McAleer. I'm the author of A Life You Want, Effortless, and The Woman's Journey. I'm a life coach, business mentor, and inspirational speaker. And my greatest value is making a difference in people's lives. So I hope through these podcasts I can make a difference to your life.
Effortless Attraction podcast is sponsored by Maria Young Wellbeing, wellness mentor and creator of Infusion, a platform designed to inspire health, wealth, abundance, and a life lived with purpose. Maria conducts events, trainings, and the blending of practical tools for lasting change. Her mission is simple: to help you live well and rise strong. You can explore more at www.mariayoungwellbeing.co.uk or infusion.mn.co.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on another Effortless Attraction podcast. Well, today I'm thrilled to be joined by Aideen Shelley. Aideen is a former member of the Irish Army, where she served with distinction for 13 years, including an overseas tour. Now she's dedicated to making a difference as a special needs assistant, and she's also the founder of Caring for Carers, a business that empowers those who selflessly care for others. Having seen firsthand how much carers give of themselves, Aideen is on a mission to help them take care of their own well-being. You won't want to miss this conversation. I love the bit where I've read out here, making a difference, because that's what Effortless Attraction podcast is all about, making a difference for the better in people's lives. So Aideen, you are most welcome today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Evelyn. I'm delighted to be here.
Now, we'll get to the caring for carers part as we progress in this conversation. And I always love that I know enough, but not a lot, because I love to have these conversations. That's what they are. I love to have them fresh. You're the first person actually that I have spoken to, and the first female as well, that has served in the army and a tour overseas. Well done, you.
Thank
You want
you.
to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so I come from an army background. I have 5 brothers, and 4 of those was serving with Defence Forces. It went back to the 1990s, and as you know yourself, employment wasn't great. I was working as a secretary in an office. The pay was absolutely horrendous. And then the army came up, and my dad, because I was the only girl, my dad had said, "Oh my God, there's no way you're going there. It's a man's world." And I went, "Oh, do you know, Dad, I've grown up with 5 boys. You know, it hasn't been easy. I think I'm well able for it." And so I joined, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was I wasn't, but the group of girls I was with was the very first mixed platoon in the army. So before that, it had just been a platoon of females, and then we were the first mixed platoons of soldiers in the army. So we trained, and we done exactly as the lads did. Exactly as the lads did.
Did you find, was there any discrimination towards the girls or the boys? Like, well, you're just pulling your own weight here.
Well, there was nothing. We were told at the very beginning, listen, you're going to be treated equally. There is no, just because you're girls, there's no going to be any difference. And in fairness, we weren't treated any differently. I suppose the only thing, our accommodation was probably more modern than the guys' accommodation, because they had built a block especially for the females. So it was a brand new block. So I suppose in that regard, the guys probably would have said, "Oh, they have it easy. They've got really nice showers and they've got a lovely block," you know. So I suppose that way. But other than that, we weren't treated any differently. I mean, you know, if anything, we would have got a bit of stick for it, you know. But I loved it. From the day I started, well, from the first day I went, "What the heck am I doing here?" The very first day. And I wasn't young. I was 20, nearly 22 joining, which all the other girls were all like 17 and 18. So I was kind of going, Jesus, what am I doing? Like, these are only babies here. But it stood to me. I have to say, it definitely did stand to me being older, female joining the army.
Well, 13 years, that was 35 when you come out of the army.
Yeah. And the reason I left, I suppose, my husband is also in the army. And when I had my son, it just, after 3 years, there was no more babies coming. And I said, do you know what? We were very fortunate that we could afford that. I could give up my job. And I said, I'm going to stay home and be a mother, because at the end of the day, the army is a career, but it's not just that, it's a life. And it was either you're a mother, or, in my opinion, you were a mother or you were a soldier. And I was a mother first.
Mm.
And I knew that I would have had to do another tour of duty in order to go further in my career, because I was a sergeant. And to become advance in my career, I would have had to do another overseas service, and I could not leave my child. I just couldn't. I wasn't. I was definitely a mother first before I was ever a soldier after that.
Well, you did do an overseas tour or tour. Is something you're allowed to talk about these things? Because I'm
Yeah,
asking questions.
because Lebanon is big at the moment, because they're pulling all the UN out of it and the Irish troops out of it at the moment, and that's where I went. I went to the Lebanon. It's a different world. It is definitely a different world. But again, I was very lucky. I was surrounded by amazing people, and it makes a difference. And even throughout my career, I worked with some amazing men. Like, people talk about harassment and that. I don't know. I suppose I was very fortunate, or unfortunate, you could have to say both. I was the first female gunner to arrive. So there was no such thing as gunner females, so
Well,
that was,
tell us,
yeah,
my
I'm going to
ignorance,
tell
what's
you.
a gunner? What's a gunner?
So there's two different. So there's field artillery, where you have the big guns that's in the field and they're shooting at a different range, or you've got an air defense gunner. So these are big guns shooting planes down. So I went to the air defense. So there had never been a female gunner in the air defense. And when I went, I was the first female gunner in the air defense. But while that was, the men treated me like, I was their daughter or I was their sister. I really was treated very well. I was extremely lucky, extremely lucky. There have been other females in the army that wasn't as lucky as I was, but I can honestly say I worked with amazing men and amazing women, amazing women. But definitely, I was one of the very, very fortunate ones that I did work with. And I don't know whether it stood to me because I had 5 brothers. I roughed and tumbled with them. I had to fight my way, and I had to eat fast, because if whatever was left on the plate, it was going to be gone, they would have taken it, So I suppose I was a fighter before I even joined the army.
Yeah. And it must be a great character building for you, your confidence, leadership qualities. You must, and being clear on communication, on instruction.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do learn all that in there. You don't, if you want to progress in your career, it's amazing, because it does allow you to do that. And I remember during my very first course in the army, we had to get up, and I wouldn't have been shy, but I certainly wouldn't have stood up to speak publicly. And we had to kind of write an essay, but we had to learn it and stand up and say what it was. And I kind of went, oh, Jesus, how am I going to do this? I think there was about 4 females and the rest was all males. And I went, okay, right, you can sink or you can swim. And, and that's the way you kind of done that in the army. You sank or you swam. And like, that's what I did. And I loved it. I absolutely, like, I can't say it enough. It was time for me to leave. I do always say that. I always say it was time for me to leave. And only for the army, I don't think I would be where I am now. I do have the confidence to go further, and I do have the confidence to talk to people and to put myself out there more.
Did you ever fear for yourself? Because you see yourself, I'm quite sure, in just ordinary everyday, people are so afraid, just afraid of things. But you're now in an environment where, listen, your life could be at risk here. How do you overcome those life-threatening fears?
I suppose you're trained. It's in your training. You're trained for this. You're trained to go overseas. You go in and it's in like a battle situation. So, and I don't know whether I can say this, but the army kind of have changed, because in my opinion now, from what I've heard, it has changed that you're not allowed to shout at people, but like, you have to be ready You have to be ready for a gun to be pointed in your face and someone screaming at you. You have to be ready for that. So if you're not trained in that capacity, how are you ready for it? And I do always think that, and then you're surrounded by brilliant people. They have your back. Like they're your brothers. There's no doubt about it, your brothers. So you always know you're going to be safe. No matter what, you are going to be safe. And I don't think you think about that. You don't think about the situation. And plus we were in a peacekeeping, so we were very lucky. It
Yeah.
was a peacekeeping mission.
But all of these words that you're saying now, Aideen, there's people that are existing on a day-to-day basis, and you've said, like, I've got trained for a gun to be pointed in my face, somebody roaring and screaming at me, and I haven't time to think of fear. Whereas someone could open their eyes this morning and the what ifs, the what ifs, the what ifs start to accumulate in their lives. Do you find that, Alien, as we're going to get on now to talking about what it is that you do, when you interact with people, they don't know your past. Do you find that, Alien, that the people are just riddled with fears or doubts?
Yes, absolutely. But we're in that type of a world at the moment. It is a fearful world. We're in a world of change. Like the world is changing, and we're coming into a new moon as well. Um, so that is what's wrong. It is change, but we are going to change. The world is changing, and we've got to change with them. So, like I said, you can change with that, or you can be left behind, and that is what's going to happen. And I say to people, they say you're very confident, and I said, but I'm not confident. I'm not afraid. And that is the difference. It's not that I'm very confident. I'm just not afraid. And again, it could have been my training, but I think I've always grown up with that. And again, it could have been because of being surrounded by male energy all the time. But I do definitely think that we are in a huge world of change, and we need to change with it. We do need to change with this world.
And talk about change. Then you came from being a sergeant in the army, and then you went into, you're now a special needs assistant. If I,
Yes. So in between actually leaving the army, my husband ended up leaving the army as well, and we decided that for a year we would take a camper van and go around Europe. And we said, okay, that was great. And our son was very young. And then we decided, gee, Mac, that year has gone so fast. Like, we're not ready to come back yet. We're not ready to go back into the real world, because like both of us were soldiers. So like, that's all we've really known. And then we ended up staying 3 years. So when we came back, then I decided that, okay, my son is still very young. I don't want to go back to the workplace. And so I ended up childminding. And then while I was childminding, I done the SNA course, because I knew at some stage I wanted to go back working. I wanted to go back because, when as a mother, you kind of sit in the house and you're childminding and you don't get out as much as to meet other people. And I said, I wanted to get back out. So it was great. I done the SNA course. And then as soon as my son then left school, I went for my very first job. And I hadn't been in the workplace for a long, long time. So at that stage, it was a cover note. And I was going, okay, what do I put on this cover note? Like, I don't have experience as an SNA. I have the course done, but I don't have the experience. But I have life experience. And that's exactly what I wrote down. I wrote down about the life experience that I can bring to that job. And I got the job straight away. So I've been working at that now for the last number of years. And again, I love it. I love the job. So it's so rewarding. It's extremely difficult job. It really is, but it's really rewarding.
you skipped over something there. It was just like this
Go on.
wee skim. We had a camper van and we decided, hey, let's go touring around and take our child with us. You went around Europe. I'm guessing you were in Spain for a while.
I was, yeah.
And I would imagine, listen, there's a very small percentage of people that do that. They would think about it or imagine it, but never actually do it. But again, I'm not afraid. Why
No,
not?
no, we weren't. And, you know, we could have started our son in creche, or we could have started him very young in schools, like, the play schools. And we said, well, this is life. He's going to experience the different cultures, the different languages, the different foods. And we said, as I said, we were very fortunate we could do that. And we ended up renting out our house in order to financially, give us the stability to travel around. And it was amazing. We've done most of Spain, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Portugal. We really now just had a wonderful time, a wonderful time.
And just parking up and waking up wherever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How did everyone get on in the camper van? Because, well, unless it was a large one, but sometimes they're not that overly
No, we,
big.
we were lucky. We had a big enough one, and what we would do a lot of wild camping. We actually done a wild camping, and then when it's time to kind of do a little bit of luxury, it was like pull into a campsite and put out the awning and be able to put out the table and chairs. And we've got caught in lots of storms, but it's just part, and we still talk about it. We like, our son doesn't really remember. He kind of does, but then he kind of thinks, oh, is it because I've heard you saying this? But like, we could sit down, we go, could remember when we were in Granada and we got stuck because we didn't have snow chains up in the mountains, and it's just all of these are the time that we went to Granada and we got stuck going down the Albacete, in a camper van where you weren't allowed to go down and had to be escorted with the guards out of it. So we have had an amazing, amazing time.
Fabulous. Wonderful. You see, I love all this. I love people that have had, as you say, life experiences.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's where you learn. The people that you've interacted, from you have been younger, growing up in House of Boys, joining the army, being the first female gunner, um, being surrounded by good masculine energy with people that support you, and then that gives you strength and belief, and everyone's supporting one another as well, heading off. Did you meet your husband, by the way, in the army? Is that where
I
you met
did.
him?
I did. Yeah,
Meeting the husband, and I'm guessing from the conversation you got pregnant while you were still in the army.
I did indeed. Yeah,
Yeah. So all of that, and then deciding, hey, I'll stay at home, and then let's just do the camper van thing, rent out the house, let's head off here for a year, take the child with us, then get him back and start in school, and then you start on your job in the school.
yeah, yeah.
See, that's lovely. That's the type of people I like to talk to. Um, so you also, currently you are the special needs assistant, but you're the founder of Caring for Carers. So when I say that, it's caring and the number four carers. Um, how long has that been started up? You started with your husband, Aideen, didn't you?
I did initially. He was reluctant because in the beginning, when I wanted to start up, I knew that I don't have the expertise of qigong or of meditation. Now I do a lot of meditation myself, but I don't feel I have the voice for it. But he is amazing. He has a beautiful voice, and he has an amazing energy about him. So I knew he was the one that would do this. I would be the facilitator, but he would do it. And then I found this amazing woman called Pat, and she does sound therapy. And I said, okay, the reason I found it, I suppose I'll go back to the reason I found it, because I was working with a lot of parents that has children with additional needs. And I've seen the struggles that they have, like especially two particular ladies. That one said, I said to her, if you ever need somebody to mind your child when you go out for a meal, give me a shout. Because I knew she hadn't been out. She hadn't been out in 7 years with her husband. And I said, and she said, what will we do? Talk about autism.
Mm.
And I went, oh my God, you've lost yourself. To myself, like, I didn't say it to the lady, of course. I said, you've lost yourself. You're so focused on giving your energy and your time and your dedication to your children that now you've lost part of yourself. And I said, gosh, that's really, really sad. And then I was talking to another lady then, and she was after being very sick, and she was in hospital for a couple of weeks. And when she came out, she said to me, oh my God, Aideen, imagine after 17 years, I can actually leave my son with my husband, or somebody's going to look after him. And again, she said it was the longest she'd ever been away from. She had texted me. She was about 3 days in hospital, and she said, this is the longest I've ever been away from my son. And I said, these people need something. They need something. So I researched it, and I said, is there anything for a day that people could go to, or a weekend? And when I looked into it and researched it, they said, oh, a weekend is out. We could give 4 hours of our time. So that's where Caring for Care's retreat day came out. I said, okay, they can do 4 hours. Let's do a day that's going to facilitate them for 4 hours. And yourself, when you go to something like that, you're thinking of, or just a day out, you're thinking of what you have to do when you go home, what's going to be for dinner. So I said, it needs to be that they close their eyes and they just think about themselves, or they think about what the person that's facilitating it is saying. And so that's when I said, okay, this is something I can do. This is something that I know I could do. And I felt it. I felt it so much in my heart that this was something. And from there, then, I didn't have a premises myself. So I decided, because I live in Leinster, I said, right, I'll go to different, yoga studios, community centres, and see what can I get. And I have 11 dates over until next March, 11 dates across Leinster for the retreat day. And then while I was researching then that, the amount of like SNAs and teachers that came to me and said, oh, can we do that? And I was going, okay, what is a carer? So, ChatGPT is great. And I put in, tell me what a carer is. And it came up with like amazing, like it's not just the ones with labels, it's the busy mums. It's the busy mums that are given so much that, they're out every night with their kids and they don't do anything for themselves. It's the care workers in a hospital setting or a care home. It's the busy parent. It doesn't have to be the mom. It can be the parent that's the father is working all day and he's out bringing them to football every night. And, and
of spouses also.
Yeah, spouses. Yeah. To me, it was Caring for Care's retreat day is for anybody who needs it. So it's a day of like gentle movement. So it's qigong. Not a lot of people know about it, but it's a way of moving your own energy. Very gentle movements, but you're moving your energy around your own body. And then it's the sound therapy. It's going to be then the guided meditation and a few treats afterwards. Cup of coffee and a few treats for people to sit around and have a chat and talk about themselves and just themselves, not about what additional needs they have, what the parent that they're looking after. It's just really just connecting with other people.
And are your retreat days then, they're all in around the province of Leinster?
They're just at the moment. I mean, I do have in my mind, I'm around Ireland. I do definitely think I'm going to be definitely around Ireland. So yeah, and then I've got a lot of interest then for companies asking me, because they're big into wellness now at the moment, and asking me about holding wellness days for their company. And that's like, for me, that is just amazing. Instead of going to the pub, they're thinking about their employees, and they're thinking about their mental health.
Absolutely, because I have a good friend, and he goes into companies and does quite a lot of wellness stuff with them.
Yeah.
And incentives, yes, for going work-wise too, is money, which can be an incentive to people. But as you know, and I know, it doesn't matter how much is in your bank or not in your bank, what material things that you have in this life. If there's not that interior, that inside thing, that peace, that resilience, that ability to find a solution, to adapt gratitude in our life, to be able to speak openly without feeling someone's going to laugh at me or judge me.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely important. But then it also has the ripple effect. It just goes out to more the families. So those people that will be coming to your events, when they go back, they'll take that wonderful feeling that they have that and that ripples
Yeah,
throughout the rest of the household.
absolutely. I mean, you have to be recharged. You have to recharge yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. And that's what I always say, like, fill up your own cup first. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm.
And that's so important. And especially, as I said, I know, go back to the change of the world. Our world is changing. And again, I see it more that the younger generation are not going out and going to the pub and absolutely getting drunk anymore. Like, yes, of course, they're always going to have a good time, but they're looking after their mental health, and they do need to, because we are in a change. And you turn on the news and there's nothing but, oh gosh,
Well, it's something that's never on in this house.
well, I try not to look at too much of it. I kind of look at, but it's all doom and gloom. There's no nice stories anymore. There's no feel good stories anymore, and that's sad.
Well, sometimes when I look on the social medias and I see actually I focused one time and I saw so many kind people doing kind acts for people that had very little.
Mm,
People that were living in mud huts, that they give them a bed, that they done up this mud hut for them, that they give them laces for their shoes, and the gratitude. And I absorbed all that gratitude that I felt from those people.
yeah,
And this is the thing too. I unless we bring practices into their lives, it can certainly pull you under or pull you down.
absolutely.
And when people have a lifelong as such to be caring for someone else and feeling that they don't have help, they don't have support. And listen, this is just a reflection on who you are because, as you say, you've come through this not alone during your army career where you supported and helped, but you also provided that to others. And
Yeah.
you've continued that throughout your life. You're receiving, I'm sure, support from, but supporting others too, and looking after yourself.
Well, absolutely, and I always feel that I've been very fortunate, and I really do. And it's my time to give back. And even when I say there is a payment, of course there's a payment. I can't ask people to come in. There are wonderful people, but when you're putting out 4 hours of their time, they have to be paid for it. But as I said on my Instagram page, you can pay weekly. You can pay monthly. I don't mind when I get that money. It's the money is not really about it. Yes, people have to be paid, but it's about them coming for the day to just recharge themselves. Really, that's what it is, and just feel good again. Just to
Mm,
feel good. So that's really what I wanted to portray. Is that people need to look after themselves. We do need mindfulness. And I know it was a buzzword there for the last couple of years, but it's so important. Mindfulness and meditation, and it really is.
yeah. I will put your links in the description of this podcast, and people will be able to check out dates and venues and your social media pages and get in touch should it be for themselves. But Aideen, that's been a lovely conversation. I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
that.
Yeah, and I'd loved having a chat with you. Yeah, it's been fabulous.
It's been really interesting because I love a first of something because I do speak to a lot of people that are in the wellness industry, that do so many things, but I've never spoken to someone that's, especially a woman too, that's been in the army.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And fair play to you, hats off. And
Thanks, William.
a driven. Do you know what? I love people with drive. I love being in the company of people with drive, but they also have that, as you're saying, you were surrounded by masculine energy, and we all have this masculine, feminine.
Yeah.
And I know myself as well. I have masculine energy, but we also have that lovely feminine energy. My
Absolutely. And
children would probably say, if it would come out now again,
yeah.
I am soft. I can be gentle.
But you know, that's, and I think this is where we're coming back to this change that I keep talking about, that it's not just a masculine energy that males have. It's coming back that they realize they've got the feminine energy. And it's the same with women, you know, women going out to the workforce, women are, you know, CEOs, and that's their masculine end of it. That it's, I suppose, maybe because we've been suppressed for so many years, that you know that masculine energy hasn't. But this is the shift. The masculinity and the femininity is definitely coming in power, like the yin and yang. It's definitely coming in power with one another, and it's great to see. I'm just thrilled to see it.
Yeah. Well, if we could all shift our energy, shift our vibes, and that all has a ripple effect on this
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
The
yeah,
more that we focus on what's not going right, the more that we focus on leadership that's not going right, the more that we give it attention, the more it will grow. And that's my belief,
yeah.
because energy will go to it whether we like it or not. So if you're listening today, do yourself a favor and place your focus on gratitude. Place your focus on now, because that's all there is. And you
Yeah.
talked about mindfulness, and let's all do, I think, our bit for humanity. You've certainly been, without a doubt, Aideen, doing your bit, but for our own sakes, first and foremost, to start that day off with some form of gratitude and try and continue it, regardless of how other people are. That's their stuff. Let them try and sort it out. And there's plenty of people about, like Aideen, to assist, to help, for people, but they have to want it. They
Yeah,
have to want it.
absolutely.
Aideen, thank you so much for your time today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time listening. If you're on listening on Spotify or even on YouTube, I'd love to hear something in the comments section. It's always nice to get a bit of feedback. And thank you once again, Maria Young, our podcast sponsor. So, Aideen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Evelyn.